but it is. So, you know, it's establishing rules. And at school, you have rules. There are only certain times for it, and so I mean, you're kind of forced to do that, but that's a good thing. Let's see, beverages. Beverages have so many calories, Kool-Aid and Cokes and those kind of things. You get so many calories through that, and you get really nothing else. I mean, there's no nutrient value to that at all. Physical activity, we're much less active than we used to be. Of course, there's computers now, and there's video games and all that stuff that there didn't used to be as much of when we were little. And they're just in front of the TV, in front of the computer all the time. Let's see. Just sedentary behavior, kind of the same thing. They're just in front of the computer, and they're not forced to go out, you know, and ride their bikes and walk the dog and swim and those kind of things. And we have to. I mean, I have to do that in my house too. I have to, you know, make myself remind my kids all the time to go out and do this. Of course, in this 100-degree weather, it's sometimes hard to send them out in that, but you got to find some things to do where they kind of live at the pool. It's about the only coolest thing that you can do. But anyway, and the kids are not going to think of it usually on their own. They're going to rely on us to remind them to do that. Let's see. At school, when you were there with them, there are times, I'm assuming in most all schools, that you have for physical activity. You have some kind of physical activity. You have recess when they go outside. Now, a lot of studies lately have shown that when kids go out at recess, or just to play on the playground, that I think the statistic was 56% of the time they're not really that active on the playground. It's a new study that just came out recently. Because I guess they sit around, and especially if it's hot, they may find a shade and get up under it, talk to their friends or whatever. And you know, when it's so hot outside, that's kind of understandable. But you still, got to realize they're not getting that much activity, really. Because a lot of people just say, oh, we have recess and they're running around all the time. But how much are they actually running around? But anyway, at the school, you're just finding things for them to do to be active. And there are things, I'm going to go over some things a little bit later on, things that can help you with that, get your kids active in the classroom. And of course, you're sitting at a desk and you're teaching them things, and they have to do that a lot of the time. But every now and then, get them up and do something like the Big Bird story, or any story that you do. If you're telling the story of the three pigs, you can move to the three pigs. You can move to anything. And just do one example I like to use is Itsy Bitsy Spider. I've done that several times. We usually do this to the Itsy Bitsy Spider. Well, don't do that. Make the spider really climb. It's going to climb like this. You want to move the big muscles. You don't want to just move your fingers. But anything you do, try to think of ways to make them move. If you're telling the pig story of the three pigs and they're trying to blow the house down, do squats while they're blowing the house down. Say, he huffed and he puffed. Just make it big and think about the big muscles that you're moving when you do that, your legs and your arms and the core. Try to move that all the time. But try to think of ways all the time to move. I see a lot of people who have office jobs that sit behind the computer all day, and they're like, I can't move. My job is to sit behind the computer. And that's true. They have to do that. But, make yourself get up every now and then. Arrange your office where you have to get up and walk over here to do things. You have to force yourself to do those kind of things. And a lot of people think, oh, those things they couldn't make that much difference. Little things add up. They really make a big difference. And if you don't have to go out and exercise for 30 minutes at a time or 45 minutes at a time. You can do 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there. Walking up the stairs makes a huge difference. And I think a lot of people, when they hear those little things, they think, oh, well, that's all I do. That can't make much difference. It really does. And so you've got to think of those little things and do those things with your kids too in the classroom, and make sure you tell them what you're doing when you're doing that. It's like, oh, we've been sitting here a long time. We got to get up and we got to move. We got to make our heart happy. That's what we talk about in stretching room. We all want a happy heart. We want it to beat fast. So so everybody get up. We got to make our heart happy. So get up and move in some way. But you've got to consciously think about that too, and you got to kind of plan that throughout your day, and just try not to let them sit all the time. We train our kids. I said that earlier. We train them, whether you realize that you do or not. We train our kids, and we have to start when they're young. That's why I do what I do. I've seen so many people over the years adults who want to lose weight, and it's very possible if you set your mind to it. It's very possible to do that, but it's so much more difficult to retrain yourself to learn everything over everything that you've known your whole life. You learn it over and do it in a different way. You grew up in a household doing things one certain way, eating things, a certain way, and it's hard to retrain yourself to do that when you're adults. So that's why we start so early with kids. And know that you're a role model and they watch what you do. Just in the cafeteria, I hear comments sometimes when I go in daycares. What I heard the other day was this baby class, and it was like a 1-year-old class. It was really little, and the baby wouldn't eat anything or something like that. And so the teacher in the room like mashed up a French fry and gave it to him. Oh, why would you do that? I mean, because that is just training that child to like the taste of French fries. And she said, oh, he loved it. He didn't eat other stuff, but he loved that. And so now, what do you think he's going to want every time he goes in the cafeteria? He's going to sit there and wait for the teacher to smash up a French fry for him. That's just, it's all about what they get used to. Another thing that I thought about lately that kind of bothers me is some of these kids' foods, and my kids are 8 and 10, so I don't buy these anymore. But you know how they make all these little kids' snacks, baby foods, and one of them is, I forget the name of it, but it tastes just like a cheese puff. I had a friend the other day that had followed him, and she was like, hey, look what he's eating or something. She said, they're really good, they taste just like a cheese puff. Well, I thought, well, I mean, do you want your child like a cheese puff? I mean, if you, I didn't say much, I didn't say anything to her, but that's what I'm thinking. The baby loved it, but now, when they get a little older, what do you think they're going to want when they go into the store? They're going to see that big puffy orange thing, and they're like, that's what I want. So you have to think about those things, and people do. That person didn't think a thing about it. She just thought she gave her baby something that was good, and he liked it, and she was so glad that her baby was happy. Well, of course that's good, and you want your baby to be happy, but find some healthier things that'll make him happy. But it's hard to retrain even a child. I mean, if I see children who are, even 5 and 6, they've had several years to get used to eating a certain way, and it's kind of hard to change it. A lot of people say that their children just won't eat vegetables. Well, it takes several introductions before your taste buds are going to change. And our bodies are amazing things. Our bodies can adjust to whatever you make them adjust to. This is for children and adults. If you're overweight and you're used to eating a lot of food and you want to lose weight, it's hard to change. Your body doesn't want to change. You can retrain your body to eat less, and I always recommend baby steps. I don't recommend that you do anything drastically all at once, but you can retrain yourself to a small step at a time to eat less and less and less. It's not going to be comfortable at first because your body's used to having more. It likes more, it wants more, and any change is uncomfortable. I also see clients who are underweight. I see anorexia clients who eat very few calories a day, and their bodies have adjusted to eating that number of calories. So, and they have to gain weight. They really have no choice. They have to gain weight, and so just small steps at a time. Again, you have to increase what they eat. But in those cases, their body rejects that. I mean, they feel awful. They feel gassy, bloaty, crampy. It's just, it's just because that's what they're used to, and it's hard to change. If you like, junk food, you don't like any healthy food, you just don't like vegetables or whatever, and you sit down to eat a vegetable, you're not going to like it the first time, and the child's not going to like it either. And I talk about this a lot with children, but it's the same with adults. If you put broccoli in front of you, and you never eat broccoli, you just don't like it, you can't expect to put it in front of you, eat it, and think suddenly, magically you're going to like it this time. That's not going to happen. But your palate, your taste palate can change over time. And so what I tell parents to do when they're trying to get their kids to eat healthier things is that you just have to reintroduce it to them over time, over and over and over. And you can't expect that they're going to like it first. And you don't have to give a ton of it. You can just you make them try a few bites, but you have to make them try a few bites because they're never going to get used to that taste if they don't have an opportunity to try. And it's the same thing with adults. Adults have to get used to that too, and they have to do the same thing that kids have to do a lot of times. But just know that the bodies can adjust, but we want the kids to learn these things early. So you all have guidelines, I'm sure, in your schools that you go by for, or the administration goes by for healthy meals. So talk about those kind of things and kind of point out those foods on the plate when you're with your kids at lunch or at snack time or whatever. Talk about how healthy they are and how they're going to, they're making healthy. Talk a lot about the colors and the textures and the smells, just to get them